kind of plateau phase right here. We got like that excitement in the beginning and that big motivational push and stuff, and now we're kind of hitting a place where maybe you're not noticing changes as much. This is when you can tweak some of the stuff that we've learned about in terms of the calories in, calories out quotient. One of the things I've been kind of playing with over the last couple of weeks has been this idea of a Paleolithic eating style. So Paleolithic would be kind of caveman-y, or cavewoman-y, as the case may be, cave person in the PC sense, where you only eat things that you might find in a place where you were hunting and gathering. So that would leave out a whole bunch of things that we have as a regular course of our diet, right? That would certainly leave out sugar. It would leave out sodas and chips and anything that's processed, which also includes pastas, breads, even milk products, because cavemen weren't really like in the place where they could be milking the mastodons and stuff like that for a source of milk. I mean, it just didn't happen. So I've been kind of playing with that and playing with the idea that this is a learning tool. I don't think it's necessarily a sustainable way of life, but it's interesting to me to kind of bring to the front how dependent we are on grains in particular, and things that are simple carbohydrates in our diet. What are the other possibilities for taking in both carbohydrate sources? Because I need energy. We all need energy. We have to think, we have to move around, we have to get up in the morning and be able to have the energy to go about the day. I need to pay attention to my proteins. Where am I getting those proteins from? And then, connected directly to the proteins, what about those fats? Because if I'm going to start eating more animal products to gain a more caloric dense protein source, what kind of fats am I going to be taking in? How does that play into this protein conversation that we're going to have today? How is it that I can talk about what are our protein needs, why do we need it, how much do we need, and what kinds of protein choices can we make so that we don't get a bunch of bad fat in the process, right? So what is a protein? Does anybody have like a sense of, or an idea of, and not an example of, but what is it? It's one of the basic building blocks of tissues in our body, absolutely, a protein. But what it really is one of 3 macronutrients. The other 2 being fat and carbohydrate. So it is a nutrient. It is a macronutrient. And it's made up of these things called amino acids. They're the little tiny pieces that make up proteins are called amino acids. There are 21 of those that exist to make up a complete protein. Okay? The way that we use proteins in our body, as we eat them, we take this complete protein, which could be the flesh of an animal, or it could be an incomplete protein from a plant. We take it in, we break it down through digestion into the little tiny pieces that are amino acids. And those things go into what we have inside of us. It's a pool. It's basically like a storage area for amino acids. They're broken down in all their little pieces. They're not complete. They're just little pieces. And as our body, for a variety of reasons, we need them for growth, if we're still growing, or for muscle growth, if we're developing muscles. We need it to maintain muscle mass. We need it for our immune system. Your heart and your respiratory system use a lot of proteins. And if we need them, your body goes to that pool and it takes out the individual types of amino acid that it needs specifically for that process. So it's not as if one day I didn't eat meat or one day I didn't eat something with protein that I would just fall apart and not work anymore. Because I've got this pool, I've got a reserve. And it would take a while for you to deplete that pool or drain the pool. So it's not as if we have to have animal product, meat to fill the pool. But we do have to have all of those amino acids in play. And we can get them from a variety of sources. You can get them, of course, we all know, fish, poultry, eggs, meat, all the animal products. But as well, lentils, all different kinds of beans, peas, dried beans, lentils, peas, nuts, seeds, nuts and seeds, and also a lot of grains have a small amount of protein or specific proteins in them. So anytime you're eating that stuff, it goes to the pool and you're good to go. And that pool will keep you maintained. And down here it talks a little bit more about complete proteins and incomplete proteins and where they come from. A complete protein is an animal product protein. Incomplete are plants, but that doesn't mean that if you're a vegetarian, you never get a complete protein. Because one plant has A, B, C, D, E, F, G amino acids, another plant has H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and those combined together will make a complete protein. So it doesn't mean that as a vegetarian you're never going to see a complete protein source in your diet. If you combine, for example, pinto beans and corn, you have a complete protein source. And this goes as well with many beans and many grain sources will mix together to make complete proteins. So you can see the little handshake here. You got grains, cereals, nuts, and seeds. You put them together with beans, peas, or lentils, and you get a complete protein. So the meat and beans group, they're a unique source of iron. There are plant sources of iron. They're a little bit harder to get to. It's bound to phytates, so you've got to break a bond in order to get it from plants. But in animal sources, it's pretty readily available. Zinc is really high in the nuts and seeds group. The omega fatty acids, remember we talked about those when we talked about nuts and seeds? They're available there. Let's look at the other side. How do we keep and make protein a major part of our diet, the part that it should be, which, by the way, should be about 10 or 15% of your caloric intake. For example, who in here weighs 180 pounds, more or less, somewhere around there? So Stephen, you're relatively active, you don't have a desk job, you're moving around, so you're probably like in the 2,200 calorie a day range. So he's going to want to have around 220 grams or 220 calories per day in protein. And you would divide it. I've got an easy formula for you. You guys all write this down on your paper. And you're going to figure out how much protein you need every day. Take your weight, divide it by 2. Your weight divided by 2 and subtract 10. Minus 10. And that will tell you how many grams of protein approximately you need. That would be a minimum goal. You can eat more protein. But remember, if you're eating more protein, you're eating more calories. If you're eating more calories, then you gotta watch the other stuff you're taking in as well, right? So if I amped up my caloric intake of protein, I'm gonna have to amp down the other stuff, so that I keep that in and out balance the same. You can have protein foods with breakfast. How many of you guys eat some sort of protein for breakfast? Anybody? What do you have?
Usually hemp seeds and a shake.
Hemp seeds in a shake? Okay.
And nuts.
Nuts. What kind of protein?
Whey protein shake.
Whey proteins in a shake? Anybody eat, like, real food?
No, I eat 3 eggs.
I'm kidding. You eat what?
I eat 3 eggs.
You eat 3 eggs? Good. Good. Anybody else?
How many grams of protein are in an egg?
In an egg, I believe there are around 6 or 7 per egg.
And if you pop out the yellow, how many are in there still?
In the yellow, there's like 2 grams of protein in the yellow, so you knock it down to about 4 or 5 with just the white.
Gotcha.
So if you really wanted to amp up and you were worried about the fat calories in an egg, especially if it's not like one of those expensive free-range organic omega-3 filled eggs, you could have like 2 eggs and 2 egg whites. And that would give you, let's see, 6, 12 probably close to 18, 20 grams of protein in the morning, which would be good. If you're working on 80, and you've got your 3 main meals plus snacks, that'd get you there. But I mean, to get that 80 grams of protein, the way that our diets are built right now and based really heavily in the carbohydrate range, especially grains, you have to kind of concentrate for a while until you get used to how much is enough protein. You make sandwiches using eggs or tuna salad, peanut butter. You can add chicken, tuna, nuts, beans, or anything to a salad. That's a great way to include some protein. And those salads, everybody's like, I'm on a diet, I'm having salads every day. It's like, okay, are you putting some protein in there? Or is it just like a bunch of lettuce with veggies? Because in about 2 hours, you're gonna be really hungry. Healthy snacks, we've already talked a lot about snacks and how to do that. Add your lean meat to spaghetti sauce. What would that be? Turkey meat, you can get that 90-10 hamburger meat. You can cook it first, drain off whatever's left in the fat, but a little fat, 10%, that's not gonna do much. Select cuts of meat that are low in fat. Trim the fat from meat. Remove the skin from poultry before cooking. I have somewhat of an issue with that when it comes to barbecuing. Because, man, you put skinless chicken on a barbecue grill and you're going to have jerky. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's just not very appetizing. So I would say, go ahead and cook it with the skin when you're talking about barbecuing, because the fat's going to drip down. And then once it's done, take the skin off. Fish, several times a week. Remember we talked about the 7 days? We're having 2 fish, 2 poultry, 2 lean meat, and what's that last day?
No.
Meatless Monday. That meatless Monday. 1 day, don't worry about it. That amino acid pool after 6 days of having animal products is going to be nice and full. Lean turkey or roast beef. I think most HEBs now have that stuff that they cut themselves that they make at home. They've got the turkey breast. It's roasted at HEB, and they've also got roast beef that they make there. So it doesn't have the nitrates. It doesn't have all of the preservatives and stuff that those packaged meats do. It's a good choice. Dried beans, peas, and lentils frequently. If you can't get in some meat, eat the beans. And tofu if you're into soy products. I also threw in some cute little recipes here. This chicken chili verde, I should say it correctly, is really good. If you guys get a chance, it's really good. It's a really good recipe. Salmon or tuna patties, that's something to try. If you've never tried it, it's really much better than you might imagine. It's really good. And then the calico beans is not a very complex recipe. It's kind of like pork and beans without the pork. It's sweet, a really nice addition to like a barbecue or something like that, where you've got some good potato salad and some barbecue chicken that you took the skin off after you cooked it. So those are my suggestions. But if there's anybody that you know of that you might talk to about this, or anybody in our class who's got any kind of kidney or liver dysfunction, that is a different circumstance with relation to protein. And if that's the case, that would be something that you would need to consult with your dietitian or your doctor with, to be sure that you're doing the right amount of protein for whatever condition it is that you have. But for a healthy person, the numbers that I gave you are quite fine. And remember that in the end, it's the calories in, calories out equation. And what we're trying to really do now is to make sure that the calories that go in are the best possible calories we can choose, and that the calories that go out have to do with the frequency, the intensity, and the time that we do things. But good calories going in will go a long way toward making that equation balance out very well.